All right, here we are. We're going to do another bush trip. So we go into our activities. We go into our bush trips. And I'm almost halfway done with the Alaska bush trip. Let's see, we've done... We're now on to leg number 7. From Perryville to Chignik. So let's get going. Let's take a look at our route today on Google Maps. We start in Perryville Airport and head across the bay between these two mountains. And then head to Ivan Bay and make a left turn up this river, and then make a right turn into this valley up to this col at the top here, and then down the hill to Chignik Lake, where we land. Nice and easy. So I've got a 2-screen setup, with the primary screen being, of course, the simulation, and the second screen being more information. So I've actually got the nav log, right, which is the description of the trip that we're going to do, and I've got the VFR map, which I make a lot bigger. And I'm pretty novice. I've been using this Thrustmaster for just a little while, and so I sometimes can't remember exactly which switch does which. Actually gotten pretty good at it, but I keep this as a reference, and I lay out my screens like this. They'll actually get better once once the simulation gets started. So we'll say we're ready to fly. So a couple things before we get going. I actually like to collapse the descriptions of all the different points. So this is a pretty short flight, which is kind of perfect for our first video. So I've got things kind of laid out the way I want. To take a moment to quickly look through the trip. So we're going to fly out across the bay, across this peninsula. Looks like there's going to be mountains on both sides with the yellow there saying some altitude. Looks pretty low level all the way across here to the mouth of this river. And then we head up, we follow the river up the valley. There's mountains here, and there's a valley right here, and mountains over here. And then we continue to climb up the valley, and then we go through a mountain pass up here. Okay, so we don't know quite how high that is, but guessing we want to make sure we get to like 4,000 feet or something by the time we get to the top of that, and then we go downhill all the way down to A79. A79 is Chignik Lake Airport. Go zoom in on that airport just to see what it looks like. We don't know which way it's facing. Okay, well, won't worry about that for now. So that's our total route. It's actually just a few legs up to here. Okay, so we'll get this laid out. Get the first few legs on the screen. So our first target is sort of just on the edge of the peninsula there. So I don't really worry about the direction the first 66 degrees, right? So about that. I don't worry about that too much because I'm probably going to have to take a little bit to get there. Really what we want to do is end up here on that peninsula. Okay, so switching to the airplane. We're sitting at the end of the runway. And we're facing almost north, which is kind of good because our first coordinates is 66, so that's sort of northeast. So we're going to take off and turn to the right and get to 66. So let's go inside the cockpit. A couple of things I set up. So go look at the nav system. We're going to try and pre-program our heading. We want 66 degrees, so we're ready to activate that when we're ready. And we're going to try and reach an altitude of 1,000 feet to start with. Just pre-program these things into the... We're going to do a vertical select, and we're going to set our vertical speed to 500. So remember that the odd thing here is you go down to go up. So 500 feet a minute. Okay, so our autopilot is ready. Confirm that because it says 66 degrees here, 1,000 feet here, and in very small letters, 500 feet here. Okay, other things we need to do. So this airplane is a little unusual in that it has the propeller. Okay, so it's set to 100%. We're going to turn that down in a little bit so we don't overtax the engine. And with that, we're going to take off. I like seeing it from the outside, honestly. So the other thing is that this plane is a tail dragger, which means that if we're not careful, like if you hit the brakes, it's going to end up on its nose because the brakes are only in front and it will endo like a bike. So you always have to be a little cautious about slowing down. So we're gonna get going, and then we're gonna see the rear wheel lift off, and then we'll pull back and have the rest of it lift off. So full power. We're off. Use the rudder to keep the hand on the runway. Very slight movement. Now we're going to pull back a little bit. And we're off. A little fast. Okay. And we're going to turn to our 66 degrees. We're going to go inside the cockpit and turn on the autopilot. Should put us to 65 degrees. Slow it down a little bit. Now you notice the RPM is going a little high. So we're going to worry about that in a minute because we're going to have to make a turn in a second. We look at our flight plan, right? We have to make this right here. So we're going to get ready to switch to the next turn, which is 40 degrees. So we're a little far north of where we're supposed to be, so we're going to go a little bit A little bit more than 40 degrees for 3 degrees. Turn. We're flying at a mountain. Uh-oh.
500.
I think we were supposed to go between those mountains, not into those mountains. See, that's what happens when you're not paying attention.
500.
Our autopilot automatically disengaged because, well, we're way off track. Now we're better. We should have looked at where we're going instead of worrying about. Alright, so now go back to our autopilot. See, it's disengaged. Yeah, it's disengaged. Re-engage it. I hate these little messages. Alright. So we're flying, we're a little to the south of where we're supposed to be on our map. So here's our map. We're supposed to go a little north of that line. So we're gonna reduce our angle a little bit. So we're going 43. We're gonna do more like 35. Try and compensate. Our goal is to fly all the way across here to this river. To this river mouth. Look at our nav screen. We're supposed to be going up here, so we're still not really. Go further. 25 degrees. Get ourselves back on track. We lost our heading setting. That's a problem. We're gonna fly into some mountains if we're not careful. Alright, so clearly we need to increase our altitude. So let's do that. Autopilot to go to say 2,000 feet, vertical speed, down to go up. 500 feet a minute. Looks like we'll clear those. We're going to turn before we ever hit those mountains. So now we're headed for that river. So let's think about our next move. So our next move, things are going a little faster than we planned. They're going to 319. Once we get into this bay, then we're going to go to 319, which feels about right. So we're going to do it just as we get to the south of this lake. All right, let's look out the window. It looks good. Let's look around for a second, just for fun. The whole point is to actually enjoy the simulation. Let's do this 2,000 RPMs, 2,000. Okay, so let's solve our engine. Let's solve our engine problem. We've got this high RPM, so we actually need to feather the prop a little bit. Engine's working too hard. So if we pull this back to say 80%. So how we're doing now. There we go. RPM is a more reasonable number. We're coming up on our turn. Our next turn is at the river fork. is to go to 319. Get ready to make that turn. Just south of the lake, 319. Let's go back outside. That's good. We're not flying into any mountains. We're headed up the river. Oops, sorry. We're flying up the river, staying on the left-hand side until we get to the fork up here. And then we're going to take a right. We're going to go to 34. So we're doing 319 now, and we'll do 34 when we get there. That's in 5.7 miles. We got a little ways to go. Back to the flight. We are flying along. I still think we need to climb more. So let's ask the autopilot. Let's go up to 4,000 feet. Okay, 4,000 vertical select. Down to go up 500 feet per minute. So now we're climbing. See, it's set to 4,000. And flying 319. Okay, that's good. Let's take a look around because, well, that's half the point. Just to look out the window. Very cool. Going for the bay. So the description here is from Ivan Bay, breaks northwest and follow the nearby river. It will run past a network of riverbeds and further north before forking at the foot of a mountain. Well, there's the mountain right in front of us, and looks like we're going to go into this valley that's coming up on the right here. So I'm going to get ready. We're going to follow the eastern fork here. So let's go look at our display again. Yeah, so when we get to this fork, we want to change to 034. So we can start that pretty much any time, I'd say. Wait, that doesn't feel right. Yeah, 034. Just make sure we're not going to fly to a mountain or something. Should line up with this valley and follow that river along there. We switch to our map. You can see that we follow that river valley, and then we gotta get over that mountain. So we gotta go. So we have to go through that pass right there, and our altitude continues to climb. We're gonna easily get through that. Actually, we probably don't need as much altitude as that, so let's change our altitude set and just tell it actually 3,000 is probably just fine. Okay, the autopilot just disengaged because it says I don't know how to do that. I'm going to say vertical set. Down to go up. Just down to 200 feet per minute. And let's look outside again. Alright, so we're going to fly through this path. Cool mountains. Lake hidden back there. We're going to go down that valley that we can just see here. Go down there. Back of the map. get to the top of the pass, we're going to change to 003 and head to the airport. So let's do that. Degrees should put us right into that valley. There we go. Now look back at our map. We're headed to that airport, and it's all downhill from here, so we better get ready to land. Oh, there we go. There's the runway. So the runway runs parallel to the shore. So why don't we fly over the runway, and then we'll do a left-hand turn around and in. Okay, back to our flights. Doing fine here. We're at 3,000 feet. So let's cut the engine back. And past get us down to 1,000 feet. Up to go down, so 500 feet. So the airport, we can cheat. And the airport is dead ahead on the edge of this. Must be just about here. Zoom in. Theory. That might be it right there. So it's going to take a little while to get down to. Let's hand fly the airplane. So autopilot off. And we're gonna give ourselves some flaps. There's the runway. High right now. We're coming down at 100 feet a minute. Or so there's the airport. Fly 2/3 the way across the inlet here. Gotta get down to okay, we're pretty fast, so we'll slow that down a little bit. Turn. Keep ourselves around a little lower, so nose down a little bit. To our turn, nice and easy. Pick up some speed. There's the runway. Oh, I guess we didn't go as far as I thought we would. Alright, so I am horrible at judging altitude. I usually come in high the first time and end up like ending like 2/3 of the way along the runway. And having to do a go around. Okay, and I can't brake too hard here because otherwise the plane will end up on its nose. Gotta pull back on the stick. Keep the tail on the ground. At some point, be careful not to hold the brakes at the very end because no aerodynamic forces keeping the rear wheel on the ground, and it tends to pop up at the last second. Like that. There we go. Nice. So we've completed our, what is it, the 8th leg? Something like that. Anyway, thanks so much.